The massive Empire ship appeared silently over Earth's orbit on a quiet Tuesday morning. Its hull gleamed like polished silver under the sun, stretching nearly 5 miles from end to end. The vessel's arrival sent every military base on Earth into high alert, though they had been preparing for this moment for decades. Admiral Marcus Stone stood in the United Nations Space Command Center, watching the main screen with steady eyes. Unlike many others in the room who fidgeted nervously, he maintained his calm. At 60 years old, with gray hair and weather-worn features, he had seen enough in his military career to know that showing fear was never the right response. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, sir," announced Lieutenant Wilson from his console. "The translation software is processing their message." The Admiral nodded, straightening his blue uniform. "Put it through when ready." The alien message came through in clear, if slightly mechanical, English. "Greetings, Earth species. We represent the Galactic Empire, rulers of 50,000 systems. We come in peace to welcome you into our civilization." Stone couldn't help but notice they hadn't asked for permission. The next few hours involved initial communications and arrangements for a face-to-face meeting. The Empire representatives seemed almost casually confident, as if this were merely a routine matter for them. They'd probably thought it was. When the Empire delegation finally arrived at the UN headquarters in New York, their appearance caused quite a stir. They walked on 2 legs but stood nearly 8 feet tall, with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms. Their ornate robes sparkled with embedded crystals that seemed to pulse with inner light. The Empire's chief ambassador, who called himself High Commander, spoke first in the conference room. "We are pleased to see your species has achieved basic spaceflight and elementary particle physics. Your integration into the Empire will be beneficial for all." Admiral Stone cleared his throat. "Before we proceed, High Commander, we should discuss our species' history and capabilities." The alien's expression showed something like amusement. "We have studied your civilization from orbit. You have primitive fusion power, basic genetic modification, and simple AI systems, all standard for your development stage." "That's not what I meant." Stone pressed a button, and the room's lights dimmed. A holographic display activated, showing scenes from human history. "We've been fighting wars for our entire recorded history. We've developed more ways to fight and survive than any species you've likely encountered." The High Commander waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. "All species have conflict in their primitive stages. The Empire brings peace and order." Stone continued, undeterred. "In the last century alone, we've fought 2 world wars that killed millions. We've developed weapons that can destroy entire cities. Our soldiers train to fight in every environment, from Arctic ice to burning deserts." The Empire representatives exchanged glances that seemed almost pitying. "Your weapons are nothing compared to Empire technology. We have ships that can reduce planets to ash." "You're missing the point," Stone said quietly. "It's not about our weapons. It's about what humans do when backed into a corner. We adapt. We survive. We never stop fighting." Another Empire official spoke up, his translator making his tone sound condescending. "We have encountered over 300 species. All now prosper under Empire rule. Your resistance would be—" He paused, searching for the word, "insignificant." Admiral Stone stood up slowly, his voice firm but not threatening. "Then let this serve as a warning. If you try to force humanity to submit, you'll learn why every human child knows the story of David and Goliath. We're trying to save your Empire time and resources. When humans fight, we don't stop until we win or die trying. And we're very, very good at not dying." The High Commander's face showed the first signs of uncertainty. "Is that a threat, Admiral Stone?" "No, High Commander. It's a warning from one sentient species to another. Run. Because if you start this fight, we will finish it." The meeting ended shortly after, with the Empire representatives returning to their ship. They seemed more confused than concerned, clearly not understanding the weight of Stone's warning. As Stone watched their shuttle ascend through Earth's atmosphere, Lieutenant Wilson approached him. "Do you think they'll listen, sir?" Stone shook his head slowly. "No, they won't. And that's exactly why we warned them." 3 days after the first meeting, the United Nations Security Council gathered for an emergency session. The Empire had requested a formal presentation of Earth's military capabilities, likely expecting to be unimpressed. They would soon learn otherwise. The Grand UN chamber felt tense as Admiral Stone walked to the podium. Behind him, a massive screen took up the entire wall. The Empire delegation sat in their oversized chairs, their blue skin reflecting the bright lights above. Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Empire. Stone began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You asked to understand our military capability. Instead, I will show you why you should fear human nature itself." The High Commander shifted in his seat, all four arms crossed in what looked like boredom. The screen behind Stone came to life. This was World War I. Images flashed across the screen. Trenches filled with mud and blood, soldiers charging through poison gas, the first tanks rolling across battlefields. Humans fought for 4 years. Millions died. We didn't stop. "Primitive projectile weapons," one Empire official muttered through the translator. Stone continued without pause. 20 years later, World War II. Now the screen showed cities in flames, massive naval battles, armies fighting across continents. We fought in freezing mountains, burning deserts, dense jungles, and vast oceans. We lost 60 million people. And still, we didn't stop. The Empire representatives began to look less bored and more puzzled. "But here's what you need to understand." Stone pressed another button. The screen now showed smaller conflicts. Guerrilla fighters hiding in forests, ordinary people turning household items into weapons, farmers modifying tractors into armored vehicles. Humans don't just fight with armies. We fight with whatever we have. A farmer becomes a soldier. A teacher becomes a resistance leader. A child with a computer becomes a weapon. General Walker stepped forward next, his combat medals gleaming. "Last month, we gave some of our soldiers captured Empire technology to study. Want to see what they did with it in just 3 weeks?" The screen showed a demonstration. Human soldiers had already modified Empire energy shields to work with Earth weapons. They'd reversed engineered parts of Empire communication systems. They'd even found ways to detect Empire stealth technology. The High Commander stood up suddenly. "This is impossible. No species can adapt technology that quickly." "That's exactly what we're trying to tell you," Walker replied calmly. "You think you're dealing with just another primitive species. You're not. You're dealing with humans." Stone took over again, his voice deadly serious. "In our history, mighty empires have often underestimated smaller forces. They always regretted it. One of our greatest leaders once said, 'We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.'" The screen began showing a rapid series of images. Human achievements in space, our fastest jets, our deepest submarines, our most advanced AI systems. We went from first flight to landing on our moon in just 66 years. We split the atom, mapped our genes, and created artificial intelligence in less than a century. Walker stepped forward again. "Your empire has never lost a war because you've never fought humans before. We're not showing you these things to impress you. We're showing you because we want you to understand what you're about to face if you choose conflict." The High Commander's translator crackled as he spoke, his voice carrying a new edge of concern. "Are you suggesting your primitive species could resist the might of the Empire?" "No," Stone replied quietly. "We're telling you that if you start this fight, there won't be an Empire left to resist." As the Empire delegation left the chamber, clearly shaken, Walker turned to Stone. "They still don't fully believe us, do they?" Stone watched the aliens leave, their confident stride now showing hints of uncertainty. "They believe we might be troublesome. They don't yet understand we're impossible. But they will. In orbit, the Empire ships continued their patrol, their crews not realizing that humans had already begun preparing for war in ways they couldn't imagine. The warning had been given. Now it was up to the Empire to heed it, or learn the hard way why humans had tried to warn them to run. 1 week after the UN presentation, the Empire made its decision. They chose wrong. 500 massive warships appeared in Earth's orbit at dawn. Their silver hulls blocked out the sun in many major cities, casting long shadows across the land. The Empire believed in showing overwhelming force. It had worked on 300 other species, after all. Admiral Stone watched from the underground command center as reports flooded in. Empire ships hovering over New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, Tokyo, and every other major city worldwide. Their strategy was obvious: shock and awe. They're broadcasting their demands, sir, Lieutenant Wilson reported, his voice steady despite the situation. The High Commander's face appeared on the main screen, all 4 arms raised in what he probably thought was a peaceful gesture. People of Earth, the Empire has decided to establish a protective occupation for your own benefit. Surrender now, and no harm will come to your population. Stone looked at General Walker, who nodded silently. They had prepared for this. Send our response, Stone ordered. The message was simple: we surrender. We will not resist your occupation. The Empire officials seemed surprised by the quick surrender, but pleased. Their ships began landing in designated areas, and their troops, tall blue-skinned soldiers in advanced armor, started setting up bases and control centers. Within 3 days, the Empire had established command posts in every major city. They encountered no resistance, no fighting, no protests. Humans simply went about their business, keeping their heads down. In his private chamber on the flagship, the High Commander felt uneasy. It was too easy, he said to his advisors. After all their warnings and shows of defiance, they recognized our superior strength, one advisor replied confidently. Like all primitive species, they submit to true power. But the High Commander remembered Admiral Stone's words about human nature. Something wasn't right. He was correct. The first sign came from an Empire supply depot outside Chicago. The entire inventory of weapons and technology vanished overnight. Security cameras showed nothing. Guards saw nothing. Everything simply disappeared. Then communication problems began. Empire channels would work perfectly for hours, then suddenly carry nothing but human music, usually something called "Never Gonna Give You Up," for random periods. Small things kept happening. Empire vehicles would be found with their power cores removed. Security systems would mysteriously shut down for exactly 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Supply shipments would arrive full of Earth snack foods instead of military supplies. Find who's responsible, the High Commander ordered. But that was the problem. There seemed to be no pattern, no central organization to target. 2 weeks into the occupation, the Empire still controlled all major cities. On paper, Earth was successfully occupied. Yet every Empire officer felt like they were being watched, studied, and quietly mocked. An Empire commander in Berlin reported that his entire base's computer systems had been reprogrammed to speak in something called UU language. In Sydney, soldiers found their advanced weapons had been reassembled into crude but effective Earth-style firearms. A base in Toronto woke up to find all their vehicles had been repainted in rainbow colors. A High Commander called an emergency meeting. This is obviously organized resistance. Find their leaders. His intelligence officer looked uncomfortable. Sir, that's the problem. We can't find a central organization. These actions appear to be individual humans acting independently. Impossible. No species can mount effective resistance without central command. No species we've encountered before, the officer corrected quietly. The High Commander stared at the reports piling up on his screen. Thousands of small acts of defiance, each seemingly random but clearly part of something bigger. Humans weren't just adapting to Empire technology. They were playing with it. In his hidden command center, Admiral Stone received the latest updates about Empire forces growing increasingly frustrated. "Ready for Phase 2?" General Walker asked. Stone nodded. "They still think this is resistance. They don't understand yet. This is just humans having fun while they figure out how all their toys work." The real resistance hadn't even started. The Empire was about to learn why humans had warned them to run, and why they should have listened. 1 month into the occupation, the Empire's confidence crumbled like dust. Their massive supply ship exploded in orbit without warning. Investigation teams found traces of something unusual in the wreckage. Human household cleaning products somehow turned into powerful explosives. The Empire's best scientists couldn't understand how. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Tokyo base," an Empire officer reported to the High Commander. It was the 5th such report that day. Bases weren't being destroyed. They simply went silent, their personnel vanishing without trace. The High Commander slammed all 4 fists on his desk. How? How are they doing this? We control every major city." "That's the problem, sir," his intelligence chief explained. "We control the cities, but humans, they're everywhere else." Reports kept coming. Empire patrols found their vehicles wouldn't start, the advanced engines filled with something humans called sugar. Communication networks began carrying false orders, sending entire battalions in wrong directions. Supply ships arrived at their destinations empty, with only notes saying, "Thanks for the delivery." Humans. In his underground command post, Admiral Stone watched the Empire's growing confusion with grim satisfaction. "Show me the civilian resistance numbers," he ordered. Lieutenant Wilson brought up the statistics. Farmers were using modified tractors to tow away Empire vehicles. Teachers were decoding Empire communications. Children were reprogramming Empire robots to dance. Mechanics were reverse engineering Empire technology and improving it. "They still don't understand," General Walker said, looking at Empire troop movements. "They're looking for armies to fight. They don't get that every human is part of this war." The Empire's sophisticated sensors detected no massive human army movements because there weren't any. Instead, millions of individuals acted on their own, each becoming a tiny but effective resistance cell. A teenager in Brazil figured out how to turn Empire energy shields into mobile phone chargers, sharing the plans online. A grandmother in Russia discovered that her knitting needles could disable Empire armor joints. A taxi driver in Egypt learned to hack Empire transport systems using his old laptop. The High Commander received increasingly desperate reports. "Sir, humans are. They're not fighting like any species we've encountered. They're not fighting like a military at all." "Explain," the High Commander demanded. They're treating this like some kind of game. We found an Empire walker covered in decorative lights. They're calling it a Christmas decoration. Our troops are being defeated by civilians using modified kitchen appliances. Nothing makes sense. In Canada, farmers herded Empire patrols into dead ends using snowplows. Australian wildlife rangers released angry kangaroos into Empire bases. Indian tech support workers overwhelmed Empire communications with extended warranty calls. The Empire's rigid military structure couldn't adapt to this chaos. They were trained to fight armies, not millions of creative individuals all working independently toward the same goal. "Sir," Lieutenant Wilson reported to Stone, trying not to smile. "Someone just reprogrammed an Empire battle robot to run a coffee shop. Apparently, it makes excellent lats." Stone allowed himself a small grin. "And the special project?" "Ready, sir. Every kid with a gaming computer is now part of our cyber warfare network. The Empire won't know what hit them." The Empire's mighty computer systems, designed to resist the most sophisticated military attacks, had no defense against millions of gamers treating their security like a new raid boss to defeat. The High Commander stared at his latest report in disbelief. "They've turned our own technology against us. They're using our weapons in ways we never imagined possible. How can they learn so fast?" His aide played a recovered human video file. children taking apart and rebuilding complex machines for fun. Sir, this is what they do for entertainment. Their young practice this before they can even speak. As another Empire base fell silent, its personnel found themselves drinking tea with local grandmothers who somehow knew all their security codes. The High Commander finally understood Admiral Stone's warning. They shouldn't have feared human weapons. They should have feared human nature itself, our endless creativity, our ability to adapt, and our strange delight in solving problems just because they're there. The Ghost War had begun, and the Empire was losing to an enemy they couldn't even see. 2 months into the occupation, the Empire lost their first major fleet battle. Not to human military forces, but to a swarm of modified civilian satellites that shouldn't have been any threat at all. The High Commander watched in horror as his finest warships were disabled by what appeared to be repurposed Earth communication devices. How? He demanded. Their technology was primitive. Was primitive, sir, his science officer corrected. They've taken our technology and improved it in ways we never thought possible. Reports from surviving ships showed the humans had somehow merged their simple satellite technology with Empire shield systems, creating an energy web that shut down any Empire ship that touched it. It was elegant, effective, and completely impossible according to Empire science. In his command center, Admiral Stone reviewed the battle footage. Just as we planned, he said to General Walker, they gave us the tools for their own defeat. The civilian adaptations are the most impressive, Walker replied, showing Stone a tablet. Look at what the car mechanics in Detroit did with Empire engine technology. The screen showed Empire ships being outmaneuvered by what appeared to be ordinary Earth vehicles, now enhanced with impossible combinations of human ingenuity and Empire tech. A modified pickup truck was flying through space. A minivan had better shields than an Empire cruiser. The High Commander called an emergency meeting of his top scientists. Explain how they're doing this. The chief scientist looked nervous. Sir, humans, they think differently. They don't care about supposed to. They try things that shouldn't work and somehow make them work anyway. Example, a human child combined our quantum communication device with something called a Nintendo Switch. Now they can instantly send messages that our best code breakers can't decrypt. They're using game controllers to pilot their ships because it feels more natural. The Empire's military analysts finally began to understand. Every piece of technology they brought to Earth became a new toy for humans to take apart, modify, and improve. Their weapons made humans stronger. Their defenses taught humans new ways to attack. A junior officer burst into the High Commander's chamber. Sir, the humans, they're in our networks. How many hackers? All of them. Sir, they're all hackers. Even their children. They call it modding and treat it like a game. The Empire's supposedly unbreakable computer systems faced millions of humans who had grown up breaking and rebuilding complex systems for fun. Empire programmers, trained to think in rigid, proper ways, couldn't comprehend human coders who wrote working programs out of spite and memes. Admiral Stone received hourly updates of new human innovations. A teenager in Japan had recreated Empire teleporter technology using old smartphone parts. Australian engineers had turned Empire force fields into a new kind of surfboard. Brazilian street racers were modifying Empire ships to drift in space. They're not just copying our technology, the High Commander realized with growing dread. They're making it better, making it do things we never imagined. His fears were confirmed when the first human-modified Empire ships appeared in orbit. They were faster, more maneuverable, and painted in what humans called racing stripes. The Empire ships couldn't catch them. The humans had somehow made their engines run on coffee and spite. Sir, Lieutenant Wilson reported to Stone, civilian scientists have cracked Empire FTL travel. They're arguing on something called Reddit about how to improve it. Stone nodded. And the special project? Ready, sir. Turns out Empire quantum computers can run Doom. The implications are significant. A high commander received the final proof of human superiority in adaptation when a captured human pilot was brought before him. "How did you learn to fly our ship so quickly?" he demanded. The pilot shrugged. "Played a lot of video games as a kid. Your controls are pretty simple compared to some raid bosses I fought." As another Empire fleet retreated from Earth orbit, chased by ships that shouldn't exist, powered by physics that shouldn't work, the High Commander finally understood. They hadn't just underestimated human military might. They'd underestimated humanity's fundamental nature. Humans didn't just adapt to survive. They adapted because they enjoyed it, and the Empire had just given them the biggest set of new toys in human history. 3 months into what should have been a simple occupation, the Empire lost control of Earth's orbit, not in a great battle, but because they simply couldn't keep up with human innovation anymore. A high commander watched helplessly as another of his fleet's ships sent out a distress signal. Its crew reported that their advanced weapons had been turned into what humans called a disco light show, and their engines were now playing something called Initial D music at full volume. "Status report," he demanded from his command staff. "Sir, we've lost 80% of our original occupation force," his officer reported nervously. "Not to combat. They've defected." "Defected? To the humans?" "Yes, sir. The humans are treating them better than we do. They're teaching our troops something called break dancing and video games. Morale in our remaining forces is concerning." The Empire's mighty warships, designed to inspire fear, were being systematically transformed. Some now served as orbital food trucks, selling what humans called fusion tacos, a combination of Empire food synthesis technology and Earth cuisine that was apparently irresistible. In his command center, Admiral Stone reviewed the latest victories. "Show me the civilian advancement reports," he ordered. Lieutenant Wilson brought up the statistics. "Sir, Earth's technology level has advanced approximately 200 years in the past 3 months. Turns out Empire tech was exactly what human engineers needed to prove their wildest theories correct." General Walker added, "The Empire's biggest mistake wasn't attacking us. It was giving us their user manuals." Across Earth, the transformation was visible. Teenagers flew to school in modified Empire shuttles. Farmers used gravity manipulation for more efficient crop growing. Grandmothers used teleporter technology to attend multiple bingo games simultaneously. A high commander received increasingly desperate messages from his superiors in the Empire core worlds. "How are they doing this?" the messages demanded. "Stop them." "We can't stop them," he replied. "They're not fighting us anymore. They're simply making everything we have obsolete." Empire scientists watched in horror as humans casually solved problems that had stumped alien civilizations for millennia. A college student in India revolutionized Empire FTL theory while waiting for his coffee to brew. A retired mechanic in Brazil found a way to improve Empire shield technology using principles from old soap operas. "Sir," a terrified Empire officer reported, "the humans have developed a new form of space combat. They're calling it space surfing, and it makes no logical sense, but it's more effective than our best tactics." The High Commander watched footage of human pilots riding modified pieces of Empire technology through space like waves, outmaneuvering his best ships, while apparently having the time of their lives. "They're not just beating us," he realized. "They're having fun doing it." In orbit, the first completely human-designed ships appeared. They shouldn't have worked. They broke half the known laws of physics. They looked like someone had combined ancient Earth hot rods with Empire technology and added what humans called racing stripes for no practical reason. They were faster, stronger, and more maneuverable than anything the Empire had ever built. Admiral Stone received the report with satisfaction. "How many Empire ships remain in our solar system?" "Less than 20, sir," Wilson reported. "Most of their crews are asking for asylum. They want to learn how to mod their ships too." The final breaking point came when human hackers gained access to the Empire's central database. Instead of destroying it, They improved it, optimized it, and left behind what they called Easter eggs, hidden jokes and games that somehow made the entire system run better. The High Commander sent his final report to Empire High Command. We cannot win. The humans are not defeating us through warfare. They are surpassing us in every way. They take our best technology and treat it like children's toys to be improved. Their soldiers fly backwards through space while drinking something called energy drinks and breaking physics. Their civilians are advancing faster than our scientists. Recommend immediate withdrawal before they decide to expand beyond their system. As the last Empire ships fled Earth's space, Admiral Stone and General Walker watched from their command center. Should we pursue them? Walker asked. Stone shook his head. No need. Let them run. Let them tell others what happens when you give humans new toys to play with. In orbit, a modified Empire cruiser now serving as a space food truck played cheerful music as it served fusion tacos to celebrating humans and defected Empire troops alike. Humanity hadn't just won a war. They'd made the war irrelevant. 6 months after their first arrival, the Empire's diplomatic fleet returned to Earth. This time, they came not with demands, but with requests for peace talks. Their ships flew cautiously, keeping a respectful distance from the swarm of modified human vessels that now protected Earth's orbit. The High Commander, looking significantly more humble than during his first visit, stood before the United Nations Assembly. His 4 arms were held close to his body, a gesture of submission that every Empire citizen would recognize. We come seeking peace, he announced, and understanding. Admiral Stone sat in the front row, General Walker beside him. Both men remained silent as the High Commander continued. In 300 years of expansion, the Empire has never encountered a species like humanity. We thought we were bringing order to chaos. Instead, you showed us that chaos itself can be a form of order we never understood. The assembly hall's screen showed images from the brief occupation. Empire ships transformed into orbital entertainment centers. Alien technology merged with human innovation in ways that defied conventional physics, and former Empire troops learning to play video games with human teenagers. Our scientists have studied what you achieved in mere months, the High Commander said. You took our technology and improved it in ways we thought impossible. You turned our weapons into tools of creation. You made our ships better by ignoring everything we thought we knew about how they should work. Lieutenant Wilson, now promoted to captain, leaned over to Admiral Stone. Sir, the Empire's scientists are still trying to understand how that grandmother in Moscow made their quantum drives run on tea and positive thinking. The High Commander raised all 4 arms in a gesture of peace. We came to your world believing we were superior. We leave knowing we have much to learn. The Empire formally recognizes Earth as an independent and sovereign system. We seek not to rule you, but to trade with you, to learn from you. Admiral Stone finally stood to address the assembly. And what have you learned? The alien leader's response was immediate, that the most dangerous thing in the galaxy is not a weapon, but the human ability to look at something and ask, what if we tried this instead? The peace treaty that followed was unlike any the Empire had ever signed. Earth didn't demand reparations or territory. Instead, they asked for cultural exchange programs, joint scientific ventures, and something they called intergalactic food truck festivals. In orbit, human ships now patrolled alongside former Empire vessels, many crewed by mixed teams of humans and aliens who had chosen to stay and learn Earth's ways. The ships themselves were testament to human innovation, impossible combinations of technology that worked simply because humans didn't know they shouldn't. The treaty is signed, General Walker said, watching the ceremony conclude. What now? Stone smiled, looking at the latest reports. Humans were already spreading through nearby systems, not as conquerors, but as innovators. They set up repair shops, introduced aliens to Earth cuisine, and shared their unique way of looking at the universe. Now, Stone replied, we do what humans have always done. We explore, we innovate, and we share what we learn. The High Commander approached them after the ceremony. "There's one thing we still don't understand," he admitted. "You tried to warn us. You told us to run. Why give us that chance?" Stone's answer was simple: because that's what humans do. We share what we know, even with potential enemies. We warned you because we didn't want to fight. You chose not to listen. And in doing so, you learned why we warned you in the first place. As the Empire delegation departed Earth for the last time, they passed a new sign in orbit, written in both human and Empire languages. "Welcome to Earth, where the impossible just takes a little longer." The Empire had come expecting to find primitives, and had instead discovered something far more powerful, a species that treated the impossible as merely a suggestion, that saw rules as guidelines, and that could turn any tool of war into a way to make the galaxy a more interesting place. They had learned, finally, why humans had warned them to run. Not because humans were deadly warriors, though they could be. Not because humans had superior technology, though they soon did. But because humans were something the Empire had never encountered before, a species that looked at the laws of the universe and said, "That's cool, but what if we tried it this way instead?" The galaxy would never be the same. It would be better.